Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Queensland meeting, September 2022. Lovely to see you all. Tonight is the once a year annual general meeting, so we've got a couple other bits and pieces to get through. I'll try and be as quickly as I can. Nathan's going to help facilitate that. So I'll just start with what we've accomplished over the last 12 months in the Chairman's report. Simone kind of stepped down from being the Treasurer, and I had Jeff helping me in that role for most of the last year, but I'll just do the financials too and we'll just get through it. But all right, so probably the main communication method other than email I use is the Facebook group, and there's the numbers from the last 3 years. We're nearly triple what we were in September 2020, so we're doing pretty good. We just crossed the 3,000 mark and pretty happy with that. And that probably puts us as the, I know not everyone's on Facebook. It's hard to get millions of people on one platform, but Facebook's relatively popular, and 3,000 would probably put us in the second place of most populated EV page, except for the Electric Vehicles Australia webpage, Facebook page. So that's pretty good for a Queensland achievement, I think. The membership's pretty stable. Unfortunately, I haven't got the very latest update but we would have got a kick out of the Cleveland show with business memberships joining up for that. We finally got the charger installed outside. We do have a little bit of work just to work out how we're going to get you guys that are members charging for free or whatever we decide. So we've got to do some technology, basically, working with Paul, Guy and Mitch. He's probably working on it right now actually. So we held 10 monthly meetings. 2 of them were online due to COVID. We did 5 catch-ups in the car parks and that type of thing. We did the Warwick Solar Farm drive. Obviously we did the Cleveland EV experience just recently. We also attended as the AEVA Queensland branch the Noosa EV Expo, RACQ Motorfest, Electric Dreams, and a few of us went to the Queensland Government rebate announcement to show some EVs in the background, things like that. That's it from me. Still pretty active community engagement, so that's really good. The Treasurer stuff, this is just a rundown. The financials, we had $8,200, and I mean, I'm not going to go through each line, but essentially we get $3,000 each year from National that comes from membership money. We got an extra $1,000 for some sub-branches that we actually didn't give to the sub-branches. They weren't requesting anything, so that didn't get distributed. There was some money for the improvements here with the solar and the charger and potentially a battery. That still has a balance there. And we had some expenses for, tea and coffee and getting the polo shirts done. And the Cleveland EV experience cost us $1,370, and that left us with a total expense of $2,800, and we normally get $3,000, so pretty much under budget. And that doesn't really take into account some of the money we're receiving from the stall holders at the moment, because that's not finalised. So pretty good shape. Could always do with more money though, couldn't we? No, give it all to Les, because Les spends more than that. All right. Committee is dissolved.
I'll be your master of ceremonies, apparently. Yes, so we're going to dissolve the committee in Queensland tonight. So we've got a chair, a treasurer, a secretary, and then committee members. And then what about the directorship piece? Yep. And then there's the director for Queensland.
I've spoken to Les about that. And yeah, we just have to work out with the national what's happening with the director thing. So
well, it happened in Canberra the other day, so
yeah.
I kind of know what's going down with that.
Okay, cool.
If you like.
Yeah. So just to make proceedings quicker, is anyone here nominating for any of those positions? Because
we'll go through them.
Yeah, there's only been one nomination for chair, and that's me.
Okay.
There's only been one nomination for secretary, and that's Wayne.
Lovely.
There's been one nomination for treasurer, and that's Jeff. And one nomination for committee member, that's Gavin.
Yep.
So we can make proceedings pretty quick if there's only been one nomination. So.
Right.
So I believe
that's fair. And then we'll deal with the director at the end. So chairperson. So we've got one nomination. Do we have any others? Going once, going twice? No. Are you willing to take it on, John?
Of course.
Excellent. Right, so move that. John is the chair, a continuing chair.
Need a seconder, probably.
Do we need a second? We do need a seconder. Okay, Jeff's going to second. Who's taking our notes? I suppose it comes through that and you're going to do it later? Yep, excellent.
Secretary. Oh, he's dissolved.
Oh, that's right. I don't know. Dissolved, disintegrated. So we'll go to the position of secretary. So Wayne, you're putting your hand up. Is there anybody else that would look to put their hand up? Okay. Do you accept? Yep, excellent. Do we have a seconder for Wayne joining as the secretary? Yep. Les has got his hand up. We had another one at the back as well. No, there we go. So congratulations and thank you for taking on the role. And so now we've got the treasurer's role. Jeff, you've nominated. Thank you very much. Anybody else like to nominate for the treasurer's role? No, that's fine. Do I have a seconder for Jeff?
Yep.
I'm happy too. But John's done that.
He seconded me, so I've got a second.
Well, you don't got to, but you can. And so then move that Jeff is our treasurer. Then we've got committee members. So typically we have those who don't wish to take an executive role but may wish to become a committee member to help support things like the other day at Cleveland, other mini events, other bits and pieces, and be kind of closer to what's going on if that's something you're interested in doing. Is there anybody that'd like to put their hand up to be a committee member for Queensland?
Gav?
Gav's got his hand up. Thanks, Gav. Yeah, Gary. Yeah. Yep, Gary.
Mr. Murray.
Excellent.
Put your hands up. It'll just be easy.
Yeah, fine. Is there anybody else that'd like to put their hand up for the... do we have anyone online putting their hand up? Metaphorically, virtually, digitally, as Les looks for the online cohort.
Perfect.
That's excellent. We'll take all warm bodies. That's excellent. Now, finally, I guess there's something else that the way that the AEVA nationally has been restructured is now that there will be a individual director for each state branch, and that director can be a member of the executive, but doesn't have to be a member of the executive. It can be somebody else if they wish to. It's particularly interesting around the governance of AEVA nationally. So where we're going, what we're doing, setting strategy and other bits and pieces like that. And so that role is open to other members as they wish. And so I was involved in the ACT's one the other day on their call, so kind of saw how that went. So I'm not sure if there's a lot of people that are aware of that situation. We have talked a little bit about the change of the way that the structure of the company that is AEVA has come about recently. But anyway, that situation are we going to open up for nominations for the directorship? So who would like to nominate to be the Queensland Director for the AEVA organisation?
Les is doing it.
Les, Mondo. That would be wonderful. Okay, anybody else like to put their hand up? So Les is nominated. Is there any other nominees for Director for Queensland? Do I have a seconder for Les to take on that role? We've got a number over here. We've got Jeff as well. Excellent. Les, the Director for Queensland. Thank you.
Done.
And I think that's the end of that.
Thank you, Nathan. So glad that's over. I don't know about you, but I'm glad that's over. All right. Thank you, new committee members. I'll be tasking you after this meeting with everything that you need to do now. All right. Let's rig along. My normal update to infrastructure. So it was a little bit, there wasn't a huge amount of new stuff happening, but I managed to come up with a few bits and pieces. I normally go through the free charges each and every month. No real change except for St Lucia has been removed from PlugShare. The AC charge is still there, but that orange symbol doesn't exist at St Lucia now. So I'm pretty sure the February floods damaged the tritium charger. They fixed it for a time, then it went offline, and now it's just offline. So don't try and go to UQ to charge. And this one is copping an absolute hammering, especially from Uber drivers. So yeah, check in there. Check on the app first before you ever go there, because I think it's very busy. It's one parking bay. It's free, so it's, you know, it's just typically busy. Just wanted to give a little bit of an update on the Castledine charger at the Ampol, because they turned the pricing on. It went from free to 60 cents, and it went from... Mate, you've stolen my punchline. I mean, no. Basically, I just had a look at the 14 days before they turned the pricing on, so when it was still free, and there were 72 check-ins, right? So that's not 72 times it was used, that's only 72 times people actually checked in on PlugShare, and that's more than 5 per day, and I would suggest from the times that I went there that it was probably seeing close to double that, I would expect. On some days in the count, there was 8 and 12, so there was definitely getting a lot of use, and now it's actually less than 1 per day now that the pricing's on. So that was just something I thought I'd bring up. Nothing really surprising, but people are using it, even if it's very limited. So I did mention this last month, and that's that at the gasworks in Newstead, they've put the 2 new EV chargers in, 40 cents a kilowatt hour. Next one, mate. That's just where it is. There is the BP one there with the spanner. I don't know, I haven't really seen any news about that one, and I don't know. People can put stuff on PlugShare because it's like open source, community source, whatever, and it hasn't been taken down. It's been on there a little while, but I don't know anything about that one.
Still being rebuilt. I drive past it every day.
The BP one?
Yeah, it got flooded. It's an awful place to put a charger.
But was there everyone there?
No.
There wasn't one there, but that BP service station and the fast food outlet right next to it went under.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, they should know. Like EV Networks at Bundamba, they built the charging pad right up, right? The charger right up. So surely they've got access to water levels and stuff. Anyway, it's not our business. Big news. Birkdale Fair has started construction. EV Networks. So the question mark I had on the screen, April, finally we're seeing construction. I haven't put it on here, but there is another one going in at Indooroopilly, so that'll be in next month's rundown. But hopefully we'll see that this month. Okay, each month I normally have a slide, which is the next slide, but don't go to it just yet. This is the phase 3 area. And so far we've had Kingaroy and Longreach. So if you just go to the next one, just showing you all the charges that are going in Western Queensland. I have shown this a few times before, but why they did Longreach first or second, I'm not really sure. Someone was asking on the Facebook group, does anyone have an EV out here for the photo shoot? I'm like, perhaps you could build Emerald and Blackwater and those places first so people can actually visit. But, you know, it's undercover. It's under a big shed, that one. It's, they had two, if you look on PlugShare, it's got two four-wheel drive Land Cruisers or something either side of the charging bay. So not sure what the actual site is, but anyway. I just look on PlugShare, mate. I'm not familiar with Longreach, really. What's that?
The blue.
Oh, sorry. The red ones were the first 18, I think, that they proposed, and then they came out with a secondary announcement that they were going to put in another 6 at those locations there. Just some gap fillers. So, yeah, I did mention those the previous months. So. These are mostly chargers that haven't been installed yet. In Brisbane, we do have Sunnybank, Callanvale, I think Jindalee. One of these dots is meant to be Birkdale, which is up here. I think the Ampol and Brookside are built from this picture, so still quite a lot to go. All right, one of my favourite topics, EV charging pricing. I've added a few bits of extra info this month. I'm not going to go through them, but you can see there. But this month I did notice that Tesla have gone from 51 cents to 69 cents for their supercharging, which is, I mean, it's not unequivalent to the 350 charging prices, but that's a bit of a hike from 51 cents. But what I was also speaking to a friend about was that if your car averages 14 kilowatt hours per 100, that's very similar economy to 7 litres per 100, which is a 2-to-1 ratio, which actually means that the fuel price, if you halve the fuel price, that's actually what you'll get if you were doing EV charging. So when we get the actual fuel subsidy increase in a couple of weeks' time, I think it's 1 week's time, by the way. If you have a petrol car, you've got until just before midnight on the 28th so everyone's going to fill up. Don't fill up on the 28th, fill up on the 27th. That's my tip. Is that gone? Just push it on and off. It's a rough guide, mate.
The best way to do it is
a rough
to work
guide.
out how much it costs to run 100 k's.
Well, the thing...
14 kilowatts, $9.50 on a Tesla charger, and 7 litres is like $14. So it's close, but it's not.
The thing is that my Kona, I'm using 14 and 7, but a Kona and a petrol Kona is 12 and 6. So A lot of cars don't achieve 12, so I just put 14 and 7. So like the MG and the regular petrol probably. So there is a rough, it's not precise, it's a rough guide, rule of thumb. So what that means, I'm getting to the point, is that if you take the petrol price and divide it by 2, that would be roughly how much you'd pay at the DC fast charger for charging at the petrol rate. So if you were to fill up, and if you had a DC fast charger and the price was $1.09 a kilowatt hour, that would be the same as filling up unleaded at $2.18, which it will be in a couple of weeks. So I thought I'd just put that up because 60 cents seems like a lot, and then 69 seems like a lot, and then 80 cents seems like a lot. But really, if you double this number, that's how much you're paying in petrol per litre. So if you're using a Quest charger and it's 30 cents a kilowatt hour, you're really paying 60 cents a litre for petrol. I don't know, a few too many numbers there, but yeah, that's an interesting thing. I'll probably keep the petrol price on there each month just so we can keep track of that. But
Prius gets 4 litres per 100.
4 litres per 100, it does.
And at that point, electric cars are more expensive to run supercharging than it is.
Yeah, that Tesla supercharger at 69 cents is roughly 6 litres per 100 in cost. So if 70 cents is 6 litres, then you can kind of work it out. Then 4 litres is probably like, 50 cents or something a kilowatt hour. So something like that. Anyway, that's enough numbers. EV events, not much happened with EV events, did it? No, we did the EV experience down at Cleveland. It was another good day. The weather was very nice, and I think I didn't hear any real negative comment. The only sort of bad thing from my point of view was that perhaps there was in the 2 weeks just before the event, I probably had about just under 10 different stalls tell me they couldn't come, which is a bit just take it as it comes type of situation. But when you're the organiser of an event and you're planning where each person's going, and then as they're slowly pulling out, and then you have to rejig things, take it as it comes. But I think we probably didn't actually reach the same number. I think I was hoping for 100, and I had about 100 registered, or more than 100 registered with a week or two to go, and then I think we got 70 in the end as a rough number. I didn't count to the precise number, but 70 at a show is pretty much as big as it gets in Australia at most shows. So I think that's pretty well done from our part anyway. And there's the underneath. Now, does anyone, while I'm on this topic, does anyone know another undercover area like this in Brisbane? Because we don't always have to have it at Cleveland. We have had it there because of this undercover space, but I don't know of another one that's equivalent to this, so I guess we'll have to keep having it at Cleveland. Yeah. Yeah. R&A. I'm sure they're going to charge us the same price as the Cleveland Council. Yeah. All right. Let me zip through this stuff. There's a TOCA boot camp on October 2nd. The next hall meeting's on the 19th, and the UQ racing guys, I've been trying to get to come along for a meeting, but they've cancelled, unfortunately. They were one of the UQ and QUT were going to come to the Cleveland show with their electric autonomous race cars, but unfortunately they're too busy, and they're going to come in the early next year. But they're doing an unveiling of their 2022 car at St Lucia on the 26th. the November hall meeting's there on the November 16th, and I'm in talks with the Toka guys about what we're going to do for a Christmas or a drive day in November, December. Luke Smith is not going to reapply for the chair, and I think Aaron is taking over now from Regen EV. Many of you would know him from shows and stuff, so he's pretty keen to do some fun activities, so I've said we should collaborate a lot and we'll do stuff like that. I'm happy to do an October, November or December EV catch-up if anyone's interested in doing that. 2BA. I'll work that out. I'll see what my roster's like. Okay, just a quick little bit of news. We did have the BYD at Cleveland as, like, if anyone's on Facebook, this is like repeated for the 50th time, right? So that's why I haven't said too much about the Cleveland stuff, but BYD, a gentleman brought his BYD that he'd only got 24 hours before, so that was really nice of him to do that. The car had a crowd around it the whole day, and I had a nice lady bring along her IXM60, which was pretty new as well, and that's a very expensive car. There was another iX behind as well, actually. So Kia Niros have come out just recently. We have a bunch of EVs that are imminent. e-tron GT, the Genesis range, a couple of Mercs, Volvo, and the MG ZS EV update, which from what I can tell has a different front and a 6.5 kilowatt hour bigger battery, and that's mostly about it. Just at the end of the year, we're expecting the i7 EQ. That's not right. I'm sure it's not EQE. It could be. Is it? EQE. Okay. I don't understand these lettering. Kia Niro Plus and EV6 GT. Anyone buying an EV6 GT? It was very popular at Cleveland, the EV6. Just next one, mate. I did show this last month, but these are the two cheapest EVs. The Atto 3 and the ZS EV that's just coming out, and they're just under 50 grand, and I think they both get the rebate of 3,000, so you can take 3,000 off that price. A pretty similar spec. Is that it for news? That's it for news, thank you. Mr. Cathcart. Chris loves public speaking, but he does some amazing things with solar and his BMW i3 in driving it, but on this occasion he drove Model 3 to Adelaide, so he's going to tell us all about that now, aren't you, mate? Okay, all right. I'll be right here for you, mate.
Thanks. So my name's Chris. I drive a BMW i3, have done for about 4 years now. It's a low range sort of EV, and I crack out 40,000 plus per year. So I don't think range is a big deal, but for this holiday, I thought with the infrastructure I'd be better off going for a little bit longer range to get all the way to Adelaide. I had the opportunity to take up a Tesla Model 3, and that's it, squished into my garage with the BMW. So do you want to, Les, next one? So that's the route we took. So we went to Adelaide for a week, which is over here, and then we skipped across to Victoria for 2 weeks, and then ran back home. So that's all the charging stops we took along the way. We went the back way to get to Adelaide. It's a little bit shorter. Infrastructure-wise, it's definitely not quite as exciting. It's mainly 50 kilowatt chargers with the odd supercharger in there. And then Adelaide itself is definitely lagging when it comes to charging infrastructure, unfortunately, but I'm sure they'll get better. And then we skipped across to Victoria, and we spent 2 weeks there, and there's so many chargers down there, it's really quite good. But yeah, we went all across the area. Actually, I think there's a zoomed in on that one. Oh, this is Adelaide zoomed in, so it shows where we went. So we found some interesting green credentials, so got really close to a turbine, which was really quite exciting. I've never been able to do that. So close we could actually hear the noise they make. This is pretty cool. But yeah, their infrastructure, like this charger here, is pretty much the only good 50 kilowatt DC charger in town. And then there's a few out, but all these other chargers are just slower chargers, like destination chargers we were able to use at places we went to for the day. So yeah, if you want to go to the next one, this is sort of Melbourne, and we stayed up in Prestwick, and a few day trips. Obviously, the thicker the blue line, the more times we drove on that. So yeah, but there's chargers everywhere. Like we didn't really need that many, but the Great Ocean Road is just an amazing drive. Charge at the beginning, and then if you've got a Tesla, you've got the supercharger at the end. Unfortunately, if you didn't have a Tesla, you would have had to probably go halfway and then go back. There's really not much else there yet, so that was a good help. And we went all the way out to the lighthouse here. Unbeknownst to us, it was closed, so bit of a bummer that one. But yeah, great, really great drive. And then like we could have spent more time. Obviously, gone around this far, but we didn't quite get there. But that's all good. All that for the next holiday, as they say. So we've been to Melbourne a few times. So yeah, it's a great place to spend a couple of weeks. But yeah, if you go to the next one, Les, that's the a bit out of order. This is the charger that was the good one that I mentioned in South Australia. So they've got 250 kilowatts with a whole heap of AC chargers in the middle, and they were all free on a university site, I believe it was. So, and then other spots in the car park, there were some Tesla destination chargers, but the AC chargers in the middle seem to always be, they were plugged in, which is good, but they were all nearly always finished, and they hadn't moved on, which is a bit of a letdown. But people were coming and going with the 50 kilowatt chargers quite well, so we didn't have to wait too long most times there. And then of course you've got the shade, which is also solar. You can probably see that. And then the next one, Liz. Oh, there's no more. Well, we did have, we came back as well, so yeah, we'll imagine that in our heads, but we went up the main road, and we mainly used the faster chargers. We were really, I mean, the holiday's finished, you want to get back home. But yeah, we used quite a lot of, yeah, that explains it. So yeah, we used quite a lot of the faster chargers all the way up the coast. Nice and easy to find. Location, some of them are a little bit sketchy. But multiple sites, mainly ChargeFox we use. So yeah, it was nice and easy, and we were comfortable with the car at that time, so we were doing the EV thing, which is, you know, trying to arrive at the charger below 10% and then just getting enough to arrive at the next charger at, again, below 10%. So if you overcharge, like you spend too long doing family things or in the toilet, then you blow the next charge because you're going to come in too full to get the full speed. And then when you wanted to do a slower charge, you know, you get more time, then you just jump on the 50 instead of the 350. So it's a little bit cheaper as well. So yeah, that's our stats up in the corner there. So the Tesla averaged 16.7 kilowatts per 100. And yeah, I was pretty happy with that. It was quite cold the whole time we were down there, so most of the time it was around about the 10-degree mark, and the Tesla does quite a good job of managing the battery. So some would say wasting power, but it used power to maintain the temperature of the battery, which means that when you get to the charger you can get the pretty good speeds out of it, which was good. And yeah, so we did 8,500 kilometres over the whole trip, which is more than what I was expecting, but you know, we're having fun. It was a family holiday, so just the three of us went. And originally, like, when we were coming down, at least we had a plan. We used PlugShare to check the chargers, make sure that you know which ones are working and which ones aren't, which is always helpful. So on the way down, the only charger that was out was Dubbo, but there was other chargers to choose from, so that wasn't a big deal. And we were originally going to follow a plan right down to a T, but being a family holiday, it was more a case of we need to stop when the family needs to stop. So when we needed those stops, hopefully there's a charger close by. So we ended up doing a few extra charges. So more charging, but shorter charges, which is better for the family. So again, a lot of the time is spent doing just family stops, and therefore it's not really wasted time because you would have had to do that anyway, regardless of whether you're charging or not. So I didn't think there's a big deal with that. Yeah. The Tesla reported 12.9 kilowatts, whereas with the figure I got, that was based on what the car had actually taken. So there's a gap there between what the car was reporting and what you're actually putting in, so losses and whatnot. Yeah, any questions?
The longest distance you did to
The Tesla, on the distance side of things, I think the longest was about 320, but the car was averaging about 380. So if you extrapolated what the range would have been, it averaged around the 380 mark, whereas the car is normally rated around about the 420. You know, back here, I think that's what you'd normally expect. So a little bit lower because of the temperature, and there was a lot of wet weather. So pretty much the whole drive back from Sydney back to home, just pissed down. So really, really wet. And then on the way there, we did get diverted at this point because of flooding. So there was a road closed that we couldn't take, so we had to go out and around at that point. Yeah. Money-wise, we spent only $140, so barely anything on charging, so less than 2 cents per kilometre. Didn't hurt too much, no. No, it didn't bother me at all. It's the cost of travel.
He's using his electricity company credit to from all of his solar production.
No, I mean, it is what it is. It's not painful. It's way cheaper than what it would normally be. And obviously, the better the infrastructure, which is great, obviously the more that's going to cost, and we realise that.
He's got a calculator. What's 8,000 kilometres, 8,500 divided by $150? Or 150 divided by 8,000? That's not very much per kilometre.
Yeah, about 1.6 cents. So
1.6 cents.
Yeah. If I was from Victoria doing the same trip, it would have cost more just in taxes. So
107 cents a kilometre.
1.7. Yeah.
Considering
1.7.
I filled my T-Bone the other day for $120.
I didn't get you 8.5.
Yeah, I filled 2 jerry cans of diesel for my tractor at Conondale, and it costs $84 for 40 litres. Like.
So it's definitely more than what we're used to spending on the little i3, especially with solar power, but definitely not a big deal in the scheme of travel and transport. So yeah. Question?
What was your note about the Sentry mode?
What note?
Battery phantom drain.
Oh, the phantom drain. Yeah, I was trying to use Sentry mode just to give the car a little bit more protection while we weren't using it, but I found, especially coming from an i3, it used quite a lot of power, so it was just a toss-up between the two. So yeah, it was a little bit alien for me because like when I'd previously done holidays, I've left my i3 locked up in the garage, not plugged in, and not lost more than 0.5%. So yeah, to lose, I think it was like 9% in less than 24 hours at its worst. So it was a bit of a foreign fact for a non-Tesla driver. Yeah.
Is that to be expected?
You'll probably have to talk to a more experienced Tesla driver, but I think it's from what they say, it's pretty much the case. Yeah.
There was a response on Facebook saying that essentially yes, it's running cameras and data recording and stuff like that the whole time. So
choosing what
it
to keep
is
and
using
whatnot.
200 watts or something. So that ends up being 2.5 kilowatts or something.
John?
Yeah, you're on.
My experience in Sentry mode, I had left the car 8% charge in a car park, for 4 days, came back 50%. So that's about 8% a day.
80% down to 50%.
Yeah,
8% per day.
down to 50%. So that's
Oh,
about
8% per
4
day, yeah.
days, that's about 8% a day. That was my experience.
Yeah.
And the car park wouldn't have that much, you know, wouldn't be treated a lot at all.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't parked in a busy area, so yeah, it could have been worse if it was busy, I suppose. But yeah, it was just, yeah, there was no bush. There was no bush close by setting it off. It was just par for the course, yeah.
So you mentioned some of the charging places were a bit sketchy.
Oh yeah, there was one that you felt like you needed a four-wheel drive to get to, but
Oh, that one? No, yeah, I saw that.
yeah, I posted a photo. Like I've posted all this on the Facebook group. So yeah, there's a photo there that I probably took it from the wrong angle but yeah, there was another car there at the time as well. So
There's a supercharger next to it.
yeah, there's a supercharger. It was about to be flooded next, I think. So yeah, supercharger next door, but yeah, prices have gone up. Plus, it wasn't my account, so I just wanted to use the superchargers as little as possible. Yeah. So, but yeah, any other questions at all? Obviously, you can tell I had fun.
Go for it, mate.
With the difference between the 50 kilowatts and the 300 or anything above 50,
Yeah.
what does it actually make the difference in terms of
Speed.
battery, or the speed?
Yeah.
It charges it within like half an hour or so.
So 50 kilowatts, it just basically, it charges at full pelt, so about 46 for the whole charge on the Tesla with the LFP battery. It slows down around about the 88%, so right up at the top, and then it just tapers all the way down to 0 to 100%. But if you go to a 350 or a 120, then yeah, if you come early enough, like if you're nearly dead empty, you'll get that maximum speed, which for that car I think is about 170, and you'll charge at 170 up to about 30%, and then it will again start tapering off. So you definitely don't get the full benefit all the way up to 88% at 160, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. So you get a flat charging curve on a 50 because the car can handle
way
the
faster
charge is
speed.
the limitation, and it handles 50 up until the point where it would normally slow down at 50 kilowatts in the higher end of the state of charge. But on the faster charges, it's peaking at 170, and then the charge curve goes down towards 90%, like just angles down. So
if you arrive at those faster charges at like 30%, you're not going to get any of the benefit, or not any, but you're not going to get anywhere near that full speed. So you'll probably plug in, it'll max at about 120 max. So you're after that peak, and it's just downhill from there, if that makes sense.
Ideally, it's a 50 kilowatt charger if you're doing long distances.
You can do. It just takes like, if you're doing like nearly the whole battery, you'll probably be there for an hour on that size battery to get the whole thing, whereas you could probably go in about 30 minutes. But a lot of my charges were less than like 20 minutes on those faster charges, just because I'm not going all the way anywhere near 100 or even 80, because I only want to go to, most of the time around about 60 to make that next charge.
It's situational. If you can make it to the next charger comfortably, and you're going to have 10% remaining, then there's no point really staying in the top end of your state of charge and staying on the 50 kilowatt, especially if there's like even a 350 at the next charger. Like you may as well top up just enough to get comfortably to the next one, and then ride the charging wave of each charger.
And if you're confident that it's going to be available anymore.
Yeah, well, the Teslas are pretty good with their GOM. That's one of the things that they, once you get comfortable that the GOM works, then if you can arrive, if you say you're going to arrive with 10, you're pretty much going to arrive with 10. If you go extra fast, or if you get lots of extra range.
How confident were you that the next charger was online?
Well, I was checking the chart. Like I'd always check the next charger on the apps, either on PlugShare or on the actual network. And the car will tell you as well. Like if you're using superchargers, the car tells you how many chargers are available. Hey?
If you're using superchargers, you know it's going to work.
Well, you've got more chance. There was one supercharger I avoided because it had a bad rep on PlugShare, and it was a case of I was going to get to that town, and the supercharger, if it didn't work, there wouldn't be any other third party. So I ended up going to a completely different town to avoid it. just for that one reason. But that's pretty much it's one of those single case onlys. Yeah.
Is there time-based pricing from any of the providers?
Not in Australia that I've seen, no. So idle fees on the Teslas, from what I understand, yeah. So if you sit, yeah. But yeah, I haven't seen, like in New Zealand when I did the holiday over there, all of their charges was time-based. So if you had a real fast car, like at the time they didn't have anything faster than 50 kilowatts, but now, like if you had the benefit of a fast charger, you'd obviously pay for less time if you had a car that can take advantage of it. So penalise the slower cars a little bit in that regard, yeah.
All right, well, we've
One more
one
question?
last question, Gav, because we've got a couple other
Do you have
speakers.
any near misses in test pilot mode?
Test pilot.
Nothing too scary, not from what Les said last meeting. You know, I was pretty comfortable. I definitely didn't put my hands off the wheel or anything like that. But yeah, always have your foot ready to take over for phantom braking, and make sure you've got a grip on the wheel, because when it wants to turn, it really wants to turn. So if you didn't have your hand on the wheel, then yeah, you'd probably be off the road. So it's just a confidence thing and understanding, you know, what the car can do without you having control. But if you've got your hand on the wheel and your foot close to the pedal, then yeah, not a big issue.
Do any straights?
Sorry?
Do any dead straights with no hands?
Nah.
Oh,
no.
you love driving, mate.
I don't think, yeah, the Tesla, like if it thinks it sees a bus on the left and you're on a dead straight, it's going to go whoop.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Chris. That was great.
Yeah, if you have any other questions, see me after. Thank you.
Good job.
You're up, Jeremy.
It doesn't need audio. It's all just music. Just wait a sec, I'll just say what it is. Hi. Hi. I'm Jeremy from Sensium Fleet Telematics, and John's asked me just to come and have a chat about a day we organised at the RACQ Mobility Centre at Cornubia a few weeks back, based on getting fleet managers from around Queensland there to test drive a few EVs. So quickly play this little video because it kind of shows it pretty well, and I'll have a chat about what we did. That one wasn't an EV. If there was captions, it would say music playing here. Okay, it's probably enough. So what we did is we do GPS vehicle tracking, obviously being fleet telematics, and we hired the RACQ Mobility Centre for the day for R&D, where we get to take a few of our cars and drive them with a bit of spirit to sort of build driver behaviour products and things like that. So while we were there, we only needed it for half a day, but we thought we'd take it for the whole day. And in the afternoon, as I said, we invited about 55 fleet managers, mostly from government. The Australian Fleet Management Association worked with us to get some good sort of people there. And on the day, we ended up with, we had a Fuso e-Canter, a Tesla Model Y that Tesla brought along, a couple of Polestars, a Polestar 2 and the other one, a Hyundai Kona, Highlander, a Mitsubishi something, a Kia Niro, which I think was only released the day before, so that was pretty cool, a Nissan Leaf, a JAC Pantech, and then the Benzina scooters and bikes and things like that. So it was a really good turnout. We let everybody, we only invited 50 people, gave them a rundown first, so tried to go through the rules and everything, which no one really listened to. And the biggest challenge for us was getting everybody into every car over that time. So we had about 4 hours, and about 15 cars and probably about 5 or 6 bikes and scooters. So yeah, it was a good day. Everyone enjoyed it. It was what it was. Yeah, everybody got a lot out of it. I think just being able to have all of the vehicles in one place. There was always two sort of representatives from each brand to talk in depth about the vehicles. We learnt a lot from doing that one. We've got another one planned for November, late November. So we're going to make it a bit longer and try and sort of build it out a bit more, get some people to come along to speak. One of the things that would be quite good to do is get someone to come and talk about the actual green, how green is an EV, because there's a lot of, as you'd know, a lot of people saying batteries and all that sort of thing. So to get someone to talk to fleet managers about that, I think would be interesting. Like everybody enjoyed it.
What did they turn up with thinking in the morning versus what they left at the end of the day? Were their minds changed that EVs are
I don't think so. I think
that they thought it was?
Everybody that came, I think their fleet managers, they've been following EVs. They've probably been around one or two, maybe driven a Tesla or driven a Hyundai.
Already open to the idea.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. And it was just a good opportunity to take a good range of them. And also be a little bit more spirited. As much as there were speed limits on the track, you could stop halfway and then test the acceleration, which we encouraged, like this is what we're there for. So
the businesses that were representing the fleet managers, are they were they government or?
Yeah, mostly government. Yeah.
Okay.
Councils, and different government departments. So we're sort of targeting the big fleets, trying to get people with the 500 plus vehicles. We were using it as a promotional thing for our product, so get them along. We had a stand there with our product on display, screens, and we were sort of giving demos at the time too. So that was good for us, and we've also now had a lot of meetings with these people afterwards. So that's the idea of doing this next one. We'll try and get another 50 to 70 fleet managers through. Now we know what we're doing, we'll do a much better job of it. We did a good job, I think. Everyone was happy with the day. We put on food and drinks and everything, so it was cool.
Did you get any data using your systems on any of the EVs?
We didn't put anything on any of the EVs. We've done enough of that anyway. We've got a Tesla that we use at work for that. We've had the Ionic, and we're just about to get I forgot what it is now. CX-30. What's the Mazda? Yeah. We're just
back to the 27 vehicles they've sold so far.
Yeah. Well, we've got. We'll be getting it through AGL. So they've.
Is an EV, mate?
Well, it is.
In your book?
There is one that's all battery, but
that's the one I'm talking about.
I went to my daughter was buying a Mazda 2, and I said, EV, I'll go and have a look at it. It was $70,000. The battery was flat, so you couldn't even take it for test drive. You couldn't turn anything on because they'd let the battery go flat.
Yeah.
But it's the suicide door arrangement. You can't open the window in the back seat. So you've got to open the front driver's door to open the back door to get into the back seat.
Well, did you want to speak about what data you have, you do from your business actually take care of?
Yeah, so I mean...
you mentioned it once before when you were here, but...
I came out ages ago here to learn more about it. I didn't know much about EVs at that time, so I came out and chatted to everybody, sort of showed what we were planning to do, which was build telematics around EV data, catching that EV data from CAN bus. So we're doing that now. We've got really good products. Mostly, we've really focused on Hyundai and Nissan. So getting the battery charge data, or state of charge, battery condition, battery temperatures, seat belts, tyre pressures, tyre temperatures, all that sort of really good, rich data that fleet managers need. What we're finding is fleet managers, when they're bringing EVs into their fleets, especially into as pool vehicles, they just find it too hard to allocate pool vehicles. People get to that car to go and do their journey, and the battery's flat, all that sort of thing. So we show back on screen, just looking at this, you can just sort of see our screenshot there, but yeah, back in their base, you can see all of that information on a screen, run reports, get alerts, all that type of thing. So it's been a few years working that for us.
So you are seeing any degradation at your end?
Not at the moment, no, on battery.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not at the moment.
Yeah, it's well hidden on the Kona,
Yeah.
and I think this comes up a lot on forums, Facebook, everywhere that I see people that are misinformed that batteries need to be replaced every 10 to 15 years, and
Some people are saying,
you know, like I just have to counter. I can't help myself. I just have to try and counter it. That, you know, there's actually a lot of data showing 300,000 kilometres with 15% degradation. So the 5% per 100,000 degradation, and then you ask them how long, you know, will it take you to drive 1 million kilometres, which is probably half the battery's capacity or something.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you don't see much, because I seem to feel that I have exactly the same range as what I started with 3 years ago. I don't really see much. So it's either really well hidden or it's hard to know what they do with the software and the buffer at the top, and whether it just degrades the buffer and then you actually start with more than you're meant to have, or But, can you see anything like that? Or?
No, I mean, to be honest, I think everything that we've seen is still at 100%.
Yeah, but it says state of health 100 if you put in like Talk Pro or one of those apps. So it just always says 100.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it.
I'm sure the 55,000 kilometres I've done has had some effect. But anyway,
So
yeah.
It says state of health is 96.5, but it says just the dashboard display 100% is actually only 94%, yet it still suggests I should get 10 Ks less. So it's kind of overput, even though it's still getting its full normal 100%.
In the Kona, the display is 97% and the actual BMS is 100%. So the BMS has a 100% value, and your displayed value is, when you've charged to 100%, is actually 97%. Well, that's how it works in the Kona. I just figured it probably worked that way in most other EVs as well. But we'll have to ask Francisco about CAN bus data, because he's doing all sorts of wonderful things at the moment. You two should actually have a talk after this.
Yep. Who was that?
Francisco, he's hacking the MG.
Okay,
Yes. All right. Any other questions? Seems like an interesting day.
Yeah, it was an interesting day. I think the two tracks there were interesting to see too.
Yes.
Watching a truck that size, the e-Canter, accelerating, the acceleration the thing had was phenomenal, and it was dead silent. Like that was quite interesting to see.
Are you requiring any help for November with EVs?
We're trying to get stick with just the car dealers bringing them in, so that they can use it as a bit of a sales talk themselves.
You know who to ask, all right?
Yeah, who?
We'd probably find some to pop down and help.
Yeah, okay.
Especially if you're having trouble with like scheduling,
yes.
You don't have enough. So I'm sure we can help out in that regard.
Cool, I'll stay in touch.
There's a million Model 3s on the road at the moment, so...
And I picked up my Model Y today.
and Model Ys aren't far behind from the amount I've already seen. So. All right, thank you very much, Jeremy.
Cool, thank you.
We were going to have Max come and have a quick chat about his Beetle. You want to say a few words, mate? Thank you for coming along.
Thanks for having me. So,
just resetting the mic.
This is my electric converted 1969 Volkswagen Beetle. I don't know, it kind of just started like 3 years ago. I was looking for a car, my first car, and I didn't know what to buy. My dad had a Tesla, and I was like a big Tesla fanboy. I didn't really want to buy like an internal combustion car. I was like, with all the benefits of
We
EVs. Yeah, I was like, I didn't really want to get like a Golf or an i30 or something. So I saw an EV West video, and they converted cars, and I had a whole childhood of like making electric skateboards and little RC cars and stuff, and I was like, it's basically the same thing. So like we found a Beetle because James from Traction EV had a kit where you can like buy the motor and the batteries, and like it gives you everything. And I don't think he's selling it anymore, but it was back in 2019 we bought it. But yeah, bought the car. We had to send the body off to get resprayed, and like because it was in pretty bad condition, there was rust everywhere and everything. So yeah, and then I did the chassis all by myself, and then pretty much everything else but the paint I've done myself. All the interior, all the wiring, all the 12-volt wiring, everything. But it took 3 years, and now finished in March, and yeah, I've done 5,500 miles. So yeah, like
Nobody even knows.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of it.
Yeah, it's a bit over 8,000 kilometers since March. So I drive it a lot, pretty much every day.
So you haven't done the miles to kilometre conversion on your dash?
No. It's still all in miles per hour. It has a.
So have you ever driven internal combustion?
Yeah.
You had to learn to drive in.
Yeah, of course.
So you did have one before this?
I was just using my sister's Mini. Oh. It has a 31 kilowatt hour battery.
Oh, yeah.
So it uses 5 modules out of a salvaged Model S, out of like a 100D Model S. So
How much that weighs roughly? That bit of the 5 modules?
So I think they're 28 kilograms each. So they're not very heavy.
140.
Yeah, and each module is 6.25 kilowatt hours. So yeah, it's only about a 26 volts fully charged. So you can only use those 50 kilowatt DC fast chargers. I've got Chatham mode fast charging on it, which is good for road tripping or going to Byron. I've gone to Byron a few times, and that's the one at QT.
Yeah. Get in there.
Yeah, it's really busy at the moment. But yeah, it's pretty good. What else? What other specifications? There's 2 up the front, and then there's 3 modules in the back underneath the subwoofer, and they're all in these aluminium boxes. They're all water cooled. Those batteries do up to 1,000 amps. So yeah, it's still at full charge. It will it does about 100 kilowatts. It peaks at about 100 kilowatts. So yeah, it's pretty nippy. But yeah, as you get down, because it's a lower voltage, it will get down to like 90 volts when you're properly, because it's a 30S battery. So yeah, it will get down quite low, and then it will be a bit sluggish. But yeah.
What was the hardest thing to do in the whole thing?
The restoring was probably the hardest. Getting all the 12 volt, the 12 volt wiring. The headliner took like a week. All of the doors and there's just so much stuff that you don't even realize. Like all of the suspension, the rubbers. There's actually a lot of parts. It's good. These old VWs. There's a big secondhand market where you can buy a lot of the parts, and there's a lot of available, pretty much replacement everything. Nothing is really original on it anymore. The seats are, but all of the upholstery over top, all the trimming, all the carpets, everything's redone. So
well, it's a very nice example. What would if you showed, you went to Cleveland, which was nice of you, and did you get asked how much it cost to do the whole project?
Yeah, it's
got a figure? Or?
It definitely wasn't a money-saving exercise.
That's pretty much what I hear Graham and other people from AusDIY say. You don't do it to save money.
Yeah, you learn. Yeah. Yeah, you learn heaps doing it. The kit alone was around 30 grand, and just like then you add the cost of the paint, the respray, it starts to stack up pretty quick. But yeah, like I could have just probably bought a Model 3 with how much we put into this over the 3 years, but like, yeah.
So that's 70 grand straight up as opposed to 70 grand over 3 years.
Yeah, yeah.
it's different when it's over time.
Yeah, like $5,000 in Bunnings trips is like.
You've got a large camber or something on your rear wheels there.
Yeah,
Is that,
it's on
track
purpose.
racing or what?
Like we did 2.5 inch drop in the front, and the back I don't know exactly, but yeah, it's definitely lowered. But yeah, they camber when you lower it. So when you lower the car, or if you bring it up, it like reverse cambers or positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions, guys?
How many hours a week do you think you spent on it?
There were definitely weeks where you like don't even look at it, and then there's other weeks where you're doing like 10 hours a day. But yeah, like there was a, I don't know, I don't really know, but yeah, it like on the summer holidays I was doing like legit like 12-hour days every day, just like trying to finish it. The speakers, they're all like, there's like custom fiberglass speakers in the front, and then 3D printed in the back, and like all painted. It was like that. The speakers were a week alone, just like getting all the speaker boxes done. Like, yeah, it's a lot of effort, and like random things. You buy a wiper kit that's fit for this model, and like you spend like a week modifying it to make it fit. Like, just for the windscreen wipers, which you don't even use. Like, it's just like, yeah. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Great.
How much trains do you need?
I've done a trip to Byron, and like, I stopped at the Gold Coast at my mate's place for 1 hour on a wall charger, and I got back home with 30%.
Yeah,
So I would have got to Byron, which is about 175 kilometers. I would have done that in 80% of my battery.
So about 200.
But that was like going slow. If you're going in the fast lane, which like if you're like trailing behind big trucks in the slow lane, like you can get a lot more.
If you're hypermiling, you can do better.
Yeah.
So would you say like 15 kilowatt hours per 100?
Yeah, it's about that. Yeah.
So you get about 200 kilometers on normal roads.
Yeah.
About the same as the MG, mate.
No, it doesn't say
Oh, very good. Any other questions? It's really appreciate you coming to Cleveland and here tonight. That's it's a really nice thing, and look, it looks magnificent. Nothing stands out as, you know, as soon as you see an imperfection on some cars, your eyes are immediately drawn to it, but I can't see anything, so it's brilliant.
Thanks.
So you must be getting a lot of good comments about that.
Yeah.
You coming to future EV events to show it off and things
like whenever James invites me or goes along, I try to make
Maybe
it.
I could just send you a message. And
You
don't have to go through James.
Yeah.
But James comes to a lot of things anyway. But, all right. Thank you very much, Nathan. How are we going for time?
End of line.
Perfect.
5 minutes.
All right. Yeah.
5 minutes, 6 minutes.
Thanks very much. Just after this, we normally break and have a coffee and stuff, so I'm sure you'll get plenty of more conversation. Have you got a slide?
Yeah, it's packed. Les has got it.
All right.
Good. I will not take too much of your time tonight. I haven't gone deep and wild on this. Probably pause because there's quite a few new people, and who's this dude and what's he talking about, right? So just move on for us there, Les. So my name's Nathan. I'm a EV consultant by day. Do all sorts of bits and pieces around policy and research and fleet transitions and all sorts of bits and pieces, councils, corporates, all sorts of stuff. So we're doing this research all day long anyway, so I like to share it with the organisation, the team. I'm doing this also for the ACT at the moment. I did that online there on Monday night to their meeting as well. And so sharing what we're picking up along the way. Not a lot today, but we'll move on and talk about 3 different things. I thought it will mostly around the sales space. bit of sales data up until the end of August. And so what are we buying? How's it looking for a whole year? What do we think might be the full year EV total? And where's the value? And we'll have a look at where range and price kind of intersect and see what that looks like. So moving on, I've been sort of a bit slack in just picking up some data from other people, but Driven had a really good article by Bridie at the beginning of September that talked about August sales, and a few little things that sort of turn out there. Might be a bit small to see, but the very, very top, anybody want to guess what that vehicle is? Model 3. So far, about 7,000 Model 3s sold in Australia, and for 1 month's worth of sales at that point in time, not even a full month for the Model Y, saw 1,000 cars on the road. I went and picked up my Model Y, which is out the front there, just a couple of weeks ago, and there were 60 being delivered on a Saturday. And you said you picked up yours yesterday, and again, so 5th today. So again, sort of 40, 50, 60 a day that Bodie and the team are putting out the door. So, you know, there's lots more coming. And at some point in time, and again tomorrow and days after, public holiday as well, the Model Y will sell twice as many cars as the Model 3 generally. Seeing that in California, seeing that in America and across Germany and so on. So I expect it here as well. You start to see what's going on with some of those next ones down. So Kona, then Polestar. Polestar's 4th. So that's year-to-date sales. Polestar's the 4th. Then you've got MG. Then the Ioniq, which is no more. So there'll be 530 of those sold this year and no more because they're all done. Then you've got Volvo. Now you're getting to EQA. Okay, so that's a car that I haven't seen many. I think I've seen 2 on the road EQAs. Then EV6, well, you know, they're like rocking horse poop. And as with the Ioniq 5, which is the 418 vehicles, so EV6, Ioniq 5, about the same number. There's a particular vehicle that was being sold for more than 10 years now that I still haven't mentioned. So then we got Porsche Taycan. So more Taycans sold in Australia this year to date than the next car down, which is a Nissan Leaf. What's Nissan doing? Too dear. They're not even bringing any. You can't even buy one if you wanted one, even if you were silly enough to pay that amount of money. And that's a big problem for fleets. You know, I work with a lot of fleets and they want to go and buy cars and they don't want to buy Teslas because they think they're posh. And they then end up with options like what? It's a real challenge, and so this is a real challenge to the marketplace at the moment, particularly for fleets who won't choose to buy Model 3s, and then so what can they buy? And so it's really interesting here. This is obviously basically every EV that's available in Australia is being sold at the moment it lands on the forecourt, and this is what we're seeing as our supply to Australia at the moment. If we flick to the next one, what you can see here is in the month of August, Model 3 was the 4th highest selling vehicle in Australia. So, you know, these sorts of numbers should be the sorts of things that we're all loving this stuff day in, day out as EV fans, but what we're seeing is, you know, the mainstream has been hit with these cars at the moment, so it's going solid. And look, BYD hasn't yet to feature because it only just started delivery. We saw that one at the show the other day. It was an awesome looking car. I was really quite impressed with the proportion, size, shape, look of it. And so where will that slot in by the end of the year? You know, will they sell more than 1,000 cars and be up in that sort of top 3? My guess is probably yeah. They've said for 3,000 for this year, but they won't make that many, or they won't sell that many, but it'll be in the 1,000 somethings. So moving on to the next one, kind of have a look at how that sort of flows. So there's a cumulative total of vehicles all time. That's what the green line is showing, and the lines blue is all EVs, and the gold line is Tesla EVs. So you're kind of looking at proportions, but we're going to crack. At the end of last year, we finished on about 40,000 cars in Australia, EVs in Australia. We're going to crack probably somewhere in the order of, we'll have a sort of think about that. If you flick on once more for me, Les, at the annualised rate so far, we'll only sell 21,000 cars this year. However, the back end of this year, if we just took the first 8 months and kind of annualised that, it'd be 22,000. But if we have a look at and think about what's coming in, so Model Y in big numbers right now, Atto 3 is going to have reasonable numbers over the course of the next couple of months. So it'll far bust that number. But will it crack 30? Will it crack 35? So I don't know. I don't think it'll crack 40 for the year, which would double the number of cars that were on the road at the end of last year, but it'll probably be in the 30,000 somethings. So keep your eyes on that price.
What percentage is that going to leave us at?
Brought like 1 million cars sold in Australia generally each year, maybe a little less than that, but about 1 million cars. And so 35,000 cars is 3.5%. So it'll be that ballpark, I would guess. Yeah, go on.
Was there a significant correlation between the price of the petrol spike and all that between people actually going?
I don't think there's a correlation to anything other than supply. We can correlate, Queensland rebates and FBT reductions and God knows, doesn't matter. Everything that's being brought in is sold. Doesn't matter what size, shape, height, IXs and God knows whatever else is, they're all being sold. And they're all got a waiting list of God knows how long. So anyway, to kind of give you a bit of an idea of what's coming, I think the thing that was interesting me there is the gap between the blue and the orange line now has grown such that Tesla sales are what they are and they'll continue to be, and I suspect that the Driven will continue to update this every month or every couple of months, which is a great little graph, but the gap between the two, the proportion of non-Tesla sales is growing, and that's only got to be a good thing as we see more brands and more vehicles and more volume being provided to us. And I'll flick over to the next one. This is hopefully this is big enough to see it. Looks like it could be. This is kind of having a look at the range of vehicles, and I've used a real world range. Broadly, I've taken NEDC and WLTP, and I've time distilled it by 80%. So it's rough, but it's closer than real. And then I've got the retail price along the bottom, retail before local taxes, so your MSRP or your RRP. And so what we've got here is a line of best fit of the vehicles that are available in Australia. The first 200, kind of calling them urban cars, 200k range, like my little Honda E. The next sort of 100k's in the middle there are suburban or a kind of a middle, and then an extra urban car that, just like Chris went and did his big trip down to Adelaide. And so anything above the blue line, I would consider being better value. It's got more range for a given price, and those vehicles that are below the line would be considered maybe a poorer value. And I think this is really interesting when we're talking about, I want to buy a really good value vehicle, so people, the MG sits nicely above the line. Both the BYDs have really brought that line up because they are great value for the range that they offer. The larger battery Leaf lives on the line. And then you've got some of those cars that we all know to be pretty good cars, and I've just pulled some of them out. But the Kona Long Range, great car, great range, reasonable price. And then you've got this cluster of Model 3, Polestar and Kia e-Niro, all landing in, again, a cluster of vehicles well above the average line there. So it's a measure of value, and it might be something that you're sort of interested in when you're thinking about what's that look like? The very, very top. Taycan? No, it can't be. It's only 75, 80. Oh, it'd be a EV6 or something like that. I've got all the data behind it because I made up the graph, but I just wanted to bring out some of the information there. So yeah.
It's 80k and it only does 250.
Mercedes-Benz EQA, I think, something like that. Yeah, I think it's one of those. And so what you'll find is, and I haven't put them all on the map, but all the German brands are all generally below the line. All those brands that are probably more traditionally ICE vehicles than your the kind of the EV fast movers or first movers. Like Hyundai's done a really good job of putting out good vehicles. Nissan's been around for a long time. They're generally at or above the line, and some of those traditional brands you're finding in the below the line space. But I think what draws out for me is Polestar and Model 3 are premium vehicles with reasonable range, and actually what they find out to be is good value. So they were the three things I was going to touch on tonight. Given big night tonight, lots going on, getting late, want to have a look at a Beetle up close. But if there's any other questions, please feel free to either catch me now if you've got a quick question on any of this, or afterwards as always. And if you've got any ideas for any topics you'd like to explore at the next meeting, then please let John or myself know, or whatever, send a carrier pigeon, and we'll do what we can, because we've got all sorts of stuff in all sorts of aspects of the EV space that we're talking about every day. Any questions? Nope. Awesome.
Thank you very much, Nathan. You know, I'm a Kona enthusiast. I would have to drive at 160 kilometres an hour for my full battery to get 400 kilometre range, mate. So my dot was a little bit higher in the value, a little bit higher, yeah. I take your point, but I think the Hyundai's actually achieved very close to what their WLTP is, so so then taking 20% off is a bit of a slant. Maybe we could ask some owners here and we could calculate the actual numbers. Yeah, that's all right. All right, well, now we break and have some snacks and coffee, and we talk to each other or leave. So I just want to say a very quick thank you to everyone who helped me, and especially Gary with the Cleveland EV Expo. Yeah, it's a lot of work, isn't it, mate? And we do it for the love of it. But it was nice to get that day out of the way after months of preparation. But and thank you to Wayne and Jeff and Les for stepping up, and I look forward to working with you in the next year. So thank you, guys. Let's break and have a cup of coffee.